Hello, everyone. Welcome to January 2019. Today I'm going to give you a little show and tell and some stories about my 30-day art challenge. It is self-imposed, meaning I'm not doing the official Strada easel art challenge, which I've just recently heard of. That's a 31-day challenge because apparently January has 31 days, not 30. Meanwhile, this is my stuff right here. This is my day one. I did it on New Year's Day itself on a photograph I took when I was driving around Lawton for the wineries and vines, and there'll probably be more art with those vines and things later, and more stories. I love doing these little studies because you can do all sorts of iterations about them. Love the coloring of the barn. I might poke at it a bit later because I want to have the roof poke out a little bit more. It kind of blends into the sky a bit much, even though that's what I did in the photograph. Photographs are still raw material. They don't always make the best paintings. So there's day one. I'm proud of that one. I like how that has the moody feeling. And I'm also working on naked trees. The beauty of naked trees, they've got this lacy feeling with individual branches, but it's very, very hard to paint that the way I want to paint anyway. I'm sure some people want to do that, but I want to paint them as if you squint at them, you see this mass instead of little bitty lines, which would take you forever to do individual lines. And we're trying to work on doing more masses. There's chaos and so many details in nature, you have to figure out what not to paint. And I'm still working on that. So, yep, there's that one. In the Michigan mush of January, it has not really snowed yet. It's just snowing today a lot. And so I've done a lot of hiking around one of my favorite places of Asylum Lake Preserve. And this was on a photograph of Asylum Lake Preserve. I am very happy about how this turned out. A lot of the water was still frozen while the ground was kind of mushy right here. So there was ice, but no snow. It was cool like that. And I'm working with some purples in the background. It's amazing to me, the more I look, how winter isn't all cold colors and blue. It can be, but when it's all frozen like this, it looks more like a late November, but you've got a lot of warms and oranges the more you stare at it. In the snow, you get a really bright ultramarine colored shadows, and it's hard to not paint them as brightly as my brain makes them. But I'm proud of how that one turns out with the very strong shapes. I tend to do very strong geometric shapes. Right now, that's just what I'm doing. Day 3, January 3rd. Also, Asylum Lake Preserve is a spring stream over there. It's a stream, not a spring, I don't think. Mine kind of went jungly, I think. But for some reason in winter, I get attracted to reflections. I don't know why there's less wind in the winter to make things more still, or how that works. Maybe there's less leaves blocking the light getting to the water in the winter, but I love reflections of things in the winter, and I'll do that even in still lifes too. But there's that little guy. He may have an owner waiting for him later. This painting is apparently a he. I just named it that. Yeah, I want to try more reflections and do more stuff like this. And again, you've got that bright orange, strong geometric shapes right here. So the photograph is a lot of chaos. I don't have it right here. But when you break it down into big giant shapes, you've got this huge blue shape right here with a few of these jutting diagonals. And there were a lot of strong reflections in the water, giving them strong things here. But there's going to be a lot of chaos in these winter ones. All right, from there, I got mildly obsessed with the very rare light that came through my window in Michigan winter. It was a gorgeous sunny day, but I had to go to work, so I took as many pictures as I could of my model pear. It was a real pear. It was delicious. I dropped it after taking so many pictures with it and making it my model for a while, and it was underripe when I bought it, so it helped me last longer. But I was obsessed with the warm light. It was like a southern light. Of course, it's Michigan. Coming in from my window, and I've got these strangely warm gray walls that were very, very warm light. I wish I could have painted this one from life, of course, it'd be way better, but it was so subtle and so mellow the way the pear was out there. This is probably even more blended than my style has been in the past, and I'm kind of liking where that's going. Still working on getting those brighter colors, and it's a good challenge to work lighter colors in acrylic. That is one of my biggest challenges right now, is painting light enough in acrylic with still getting that quality color saturation. That's a fun thing to do with acrylics, and there are reasons people still paint in oils. So I am proud of that pear. You'll see more pears, hopefully, down the road. I bought another model. Hopefully it will last longer. All right, and then things went downhill after the pear. I was very proud of that pear. The weekend, things didn't go quite as well as I know I can paint. So this little guy is tree fungus, if you can't tell that. I was feeling a lot of pressure to produce something and then leave and go do stuff. That was completely self-imposed, and I could have gotten up earlier, honestly, as well. And a lot of these other things that I've painted, I've also done before. I've practiced them. Doing value studies is invaluable. No pun intended. Please do value studies. They help you so much. And I won't need to do that again on here. But it bugs me so much. These tree fungus, they're all the same angle and shape and size, and they don't go around, and yeah, I know I can do better. So that's why it bugs me so much. But at the same time, can I get it closer to show you some of the cool colors? It's so greenish blue. They look like shells growing off of an old log, and we've had a long enough of a weird fall that there are tons of fungus growing around in a Silent Lake Preserve. So I took videos of the fungus. I went and go out and drew it again. I will be revisiting this subject for myself. I might even touch up this one so it's more pleasant for everyone's, and it's not a record of my frustration with myself. But then, driving around Michigan, because I took so long in the tree fungus, I missed getting pictures of the hoarfrost up farther north for me, and maybe that compounded my frustration a bit, but life will go on, and I'll get pictures of the frost later, nice and foggy. I did go take pictures that day of, again, that weird January thaw. This one I'm also not happy with. As an artist, can do better. But the point of this exercise isn't necessarily to produce 30 sellable paintings, it's the discipline of it. And even just as a practice, I got something done. It's a field in the distance. There's a farmhouse thing, and it's January thaw, but there's a lot of grass out there because Michigan is being weird right now, and these puddles of water reflecting the sky with some really dark dirt in between those dead grasses and wheat and corn things. So I want to revisit this subject as well because I know I can do better, and I can portray the feeling I was getting from it a lot better too. I feel like something much larger will help because I put too much texture on a tiny thing. This is kind of like a post-mortem of things I didn't think that worked. If you squint at this, it's almost all the same value except up here. Highest contrast, but that's also really far in the distance. Maybe it can work for this painting if I wanted this to be the focal point, but I kind of want the reflections to pop out more with the bright sky. So it's a nice study to see what I need to do better. But you can kind of see how that will actually make a really cool subject later on with reflections in the sky and this beautiful dirt and textures. And some of these had like trail marks. Here, I'm just going to draw on this thing with my charcoal pencil. Some of them had like dirt marks of tracks where the tires had been. I went out to take pictures of dirt because it was fascinating. All right, so after a disappointing art weekend, I decided to simplify things and kind of build up a little bit of my artist ego who wanted to feel better about painting. So I simplified a lot, and did this. I am so proud of this thing. Sorry for the big clack, everyone who's trying to sleep. I am very, very proud of this one. Now, I was trying to challenge myself with the landscapes and the tree fungus. I love that challenge. I don't want to always go to simple, safe shapes to paint. It's like, oh, I can paint this simple, safe thing very well. Well, cool, but you're not going to grow. I have to challenge myself, even if that means failing once in a while. That's how you learn. Meanwhile, going back to these simple shapes, I am very, very proud of these. These are painted from life. There's another lesson for you, everybody. And they're also in acrylic, on a little 6-inch painting thing. You can see all of these have black edges because of reasons. I am proud of those tomatoes so much. Reflective things, again, reflective things and textures. And painting from life is so important. You see things that your camera cannot pick up. Again, it's a lot of camera technical stuff about focusing on different lights, multiple pictures, things like that. I would have loved to have painted those pair in life. I would have loved to have done that. And you probably could see there would have been a different kind of finesse, but it still has life of its own the way it is. So that's the thing with my day job. I had to leave. That happens. Maybe someday I'll be a grown-up artist and have not a day job I have to run away to. Maybe. Last but not least, the one I did yesterday, also from life, I'm also proud of. It is more of a challenge for me because I don't do that much still life. And it's very, very subtle. I love the little pictures that come with cream and sugar sets on coffees and teas and things. I just look at those curves. I love them. They're little pudgy curves on these little creamers. So yeah, I am proud of that one too. It is very, very subtle. Probably even darker than the actual creamer. And here's a little guy right here. So it's almost exactly life-sized, slightly larger, and also painted from life. So I want to do more of that. Even these little guys there. So if we can match it up exactly, almost. So yeah, now that I've shown you it side by side, you can see how I drew it wrong and all those fun things. But I think it works. I am proud of that little guy for having doing a painting a day, and I've got other little random still life things. Thank you to another YouTuber who pointed out that it's a still life library. It's not called hoarding small objects. If you actually paint them, it's a library of stuff to paint. And so I was inspired to actually tidy up my collection of things. I've got this pewter vase thing that I'll do things with. I also got a giant grapevine wreath, which maybe I'll tell you stories about later. So thank you everybody for watching my first 8 days. I'm gonna pop my favorite ones up here. These are my favorites so far, tiny still life things. Maybe a bit simple, maybe not quite a challenge that I will do. Work on some more challenges there. I've yet to do mine today. Probably another little still life, just for the practice. More landscapes coming up. Thanks everybody for watching, and Happy New Year!